Welcome to Stories That Matter. I'm your host, Doug Thompson, with my special guest today, a dear friend of mine, Katie Peterson. And Katie, good to see you again.
Good to see you too. I wish it could be in person, but this is the next best thing.
Well, I know it, and you're in front of a building right now in Nashville, and I'm in the middle of Kansas. So, and you were telling me before we started, it's nice. It's 60 degrees out, and it's not here.
It's good to be in the South in the winter.
Listen, I first met Katie, I don't know, it's been a number of years ago, and Katie was a singer-songwriter, and she was the former Princess of America, Miss Southern States, and she was in Branson, and we were doing a lot of things in Branson with performers in Branson, and Katie, a Kansas kid, and so we made connections and amazing stories. Well, I'm giving stories that I don't know all the answers to, so Katie, let's begin first. Tell me about how you got started in your music.
I have been pursuing music since I could talk. Well, not pursuing music, but I've been singing as long as I've been talking. My mom always quotes the Sister Act 2, I think it was in the second movie, when she says, "If you wake up singing before you're talking, you're supposed to be a singer." And that's what I did. That's what I still do. But recently, about a year and a half ago, I moved down to Nashville. I got a job opportunity out here, and the journalism side. And so it allowed me to be in a place to pursue it a little more and hopefully soon be recording a demo now that some health stuff is behind me and I'm healthy again. So.
And you're working for a publication now in Nashville. Who is that?
I work for the Tennessee Register, which is the Catholic newspaper for the Diocese of Nashville, and it's one of 3 dioceses in Tennessee. So,
okay, and before locating in Nashville, I remember you were working at was it the Leavenworth Lamp newspaper?
Yes, that was the military paper on Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. Yes.
Okay, and your background of training, your education is in this field, I take it?
Well, I actually got my degree in English from the University of St. Mary in Leavenworth, run by the Sisters of Charity. They didn't have a journalism degree. I got into journalism because the editor out at the Lamp, honestly, he took a chance. There were other candidates that had more experience than me, knew how to write for journalism, but he gave that chance to me, and I wouldn't be down here if it weren't for him. So.
Yeah, that was awesome, and I know your connection with Branson, but share some of that about being the Princess of America.
Oh, it feels like forever ago. That was pre-COVID. But that was a whim. My vocal coach is also a pageant coach. She approached me one day and said, "I gotta ask you something. You're probably gonna say no, but I gotta ask you something." And she told me about Princess of America. And at that point, it was a title that you could just apply for, almost like a job, and just be appointed the title and not necessarily compete at the state level. And I ended up being chosen for the title. So when I walked on the national stage, that was the first time I'd ever been in a pageant. So I got thrown in really quick, but it was a great experience. Some of my best friends have come out of that experience. So.
And that opened some doors for you too, didn't it?
Oh yeah. It gave me a chance to perform in Branson. That was exhilarating. And gave me so much confidence in myself. I always said I never felt more beautiful than when I stepped on that stage in my evening gown. So.
Yeah, and I would agree. You looked absolutely beautiful in that gown, and proud of you for winning that Princess of America, and that's awesome because there's some awfully good competition in Branson, and that's.
I didn't win the national title, but for my first pageant ever to make top 8 in this is no small feat. So I was proud of that. So I always said I was kind of glad I didn't win because there were several girls that they had been trying for a national title for years. And so I would have felt bad if my first time I got the national title. So I was glad I didn't win, honestly. So.
Well, I'm proud of you, the fact that you have been a freelance writer for as long as I can remember, and that you now have moved down to Nashville. Hate to see you go to Nashville, but by the same token, with your abilities, I know that's a great opportunity for you. And so I'm glad that you've got that chance, and I'm glad that you're following your career because you are an excellent freelance writer. Now, I want to get into about Nashville and about what you're doing right now, but we're going to cut away, take a break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Stories That Matter. I'm your host, Doug Thompson. My special guest, Katie Peterson. And Katie's in Nashville right now, and she was a freelance writer, and she's excellent in music. She was a Princess of America queen. And now she's in Nashville, and she's working for the Tennessee Register. So tell me about Nashville, because my knowledge of Nashville goes back to some friends who are in the music business, Darlene Austin and some other people. And, those with lots of talent seem to gravitate into Nashville. And tell me, is that why you're there?
It's why I've always wanted to be here, because country music is my biggest love. I have gotten to perform a couple times at you start out at the bars down here. So, but I have gotten to perform a couple times. I had a few months where I wasn't able to perform. I had some back surgery that kind of kept me out of commission for a while. And plus this job keeps me busy. I love it. It keeps me busy though. But hopefully within the next few months, I'll be starting back on recording my demo. That's my first priority, because a lot of the places to perform, they want something as a sample before they're going to say, yeah, just go ahead and perform. The couple times that I have performed were honestly a fluke. it kind of just happened, so it wasn't planned. So that's where I'm hoping to be by the summer, recording a demo. So
Okay, and are there lots of opportunities in Nashville if a person is interested in it?
yeah, well, there's quite a few places. My coworker here at the Register is also a musician, and he's performed a few more times than I have. He has some recordings to use, but the different bars and venues around here are pretty open to accepting new people and giving some opportunities. So I'm hoping come when I have the demo to start getting my foot in the door with those, but we'll see what happens.
Okay, I'm sure it'll do. You'll do a good job with it. I'm sure of that. And so, have you met some people that are in the entertainment business that you've had the chance to either interview for the Tennessee Register, or maybe you've just have met them in different locations? And if so, who have you met?
Well, I've met quite a few people. I actually interviewed Christian singer Sarah Hart for a story. She's a Catholic. I interviewed her back in August. She was releasing a Marian hymn. So I got to meet her, and I've kept in touch with her a little bit. I've shared a couple of my songs with her. I told her, I said, I'm not expecting anything. I just want you to hear them and get your opinion. And she enjoyed them. And then I've met Sarah Kroger, who's also a Catholic singer-songwriter that lives down here. I actually interviewed her for the Levin in Kansas City, because she was going to be going to different churches in that archdiocese, and I used to write for the Levin while I was home. And Anita, the managing editor, emailed me. She said, I got permission from Rick, who's our former director of media. Now he changed jobs, but she said, I got permission from Rick to ask you this, but you could get an in-person interview with her and get a picture for us. And so I did that. And then I've actually had the pleasure of meeting and talking with Taylor Lynn, granddaughter of the late great Loretta Lynn.
Yeah.
She's a parishioner at one of our churches, and I'm really close with the pastor that is at that church, and he introduced me, and we're supposed to meet up for coffee. I've been in contact with her a little bit. Whenever she has time, she said, we'll meet for coffee sometime and you can pick my brain and I'll see how I can help you. So here's hoping that happens soon. And even that connection, one of the greatest honors I got to have was I actually got to be at the Opry for Loretta's memorial because of that connection. She gave family and friends tickets to Father Zach, and Father Zach from there invited me, and that was a surreal thing to be able to witness that in person.
I can imagine that would be, I don't know the right word, whether you'd say it was an honor for her to have, for you to have that opportunity to be there with all of her family and the friends and the many, many people that she's known from the time she started until the time she passed.
Well, at that point, I was super excited too, because I had only met her in person the one time, and it was a very, very brief meetup. She didn't know who Father Zach invited to come with him. And when she came over to see him, she's like, Katie, it's so good to see you again. And so that made me feel so good, because I told Father Zach, I was like, did you tell her I was the one that you were bringing? He said, no, that was all her. So, and then the other thing that this job has allowed me to do, it's kind of fun to find out that a lot of my favorite country artists are Catholic, because we're the Catholic paper, so we kind of stick with the Catholic churches and stuff. But back in August, the Knights of Columbus Supreme Convention was here, and the opening night of the Opry, I got to photograph Craig Morgan at the Opry. That was my favorite assignment for sure today. So I unfortunately didn't get to interview him, but I got to take pictures, so that was pretty cool.
Well, that's awesome. Who do you have scheduled for interviews, or that you're working on perhaps? Who do you have scheduled for some interviews for the Register?
Oh, there's a lot going on. I've done a lot of stuff with our bishop this week. In fact, I had another story with the bishop this morning. It's been surrounding Catholic Schools Week, so we've been doing a lot of stuff with the schools. And then we're also just preparing for the Lenten season. So I've got some interviews set up with different priests this week for a Lenten preview as we prepare for that. So there's quite a bit happening. I've got about 13 stories for one issue to be working on. So
wow. What's the circulation of the Register?
Oh, I'm gonna get this wrong. Every parish or every family registered in every parish, and we've got 60 churches in the diocese, gets the Register. I know it's more than 10,000. I'm gonna show
weekly?
No, it's every other week.
Oh, okay.
But we have a content first approach. So the second everything is ready, it goes up online. So honestly, a lot of the time, by the time the print version comes out, most of the stories in print have already been online.
All right. Katie, we're going to cut away, take a break. We'll be right back, and you are watching Stories That Matter with Katie Peterson. Welcome back to Stories That Matter. I'm your host, Doug Thompson. My special guest is a friend of mine, Katie Peterson now she's from Nashville. And Katie, we've been talking about a number of things, but you sent me a book, and it says right on it, Katie Peterson, A Matter of Trust. So you've written this book, and it's a full-size book, and it's very, very good. Tell me about it.
Well, it's been in the works for a long time. I think I started this book even before the pandemic. A big part of the process is I'm an old school person. I write longhand first, so it takes a while when you do that. And it's gone through several edits, but the big reason why it took a while was I was just trying to find the right way to publish it that didn't cost an arm and a leg. But it's part of a wider series called the Virtue Series, and I've got about 5 installments ready, including the sequel to this book. The Virtue Series itself is not a character series, it's a theme series. So every new installment has the very similar title. It's a matter of faith. It's a matter of trust. So you know exactly right away which virtue is going to be the theme throughout the book, and that's what connects them. this one is a exception, because this one does have a sequel to the story where the story continues. But this one I started to just develop this story about an uncle and a niece who just happened to only be about 10 years apart. And it just talks about their relationship and the closeness they have. And what you find out is that their bond is even closer than you might think. And in fact, you don't get to know exactly where that bond started until you read the sequel. But it just kind of explores that. You see a football in the front because it's kind of a secondary character. Because the uncle is a football player in the professionals. I, of course, couldn't say NFL. But that feel, I'm even blanking on what I did call it. But so I've been told by people who have read it, the only thing I didn't like was that you made it so I couldn't put it down. I had one of my coworkers who'd read it, and she said, I kept thinking I need to put in another load of laundry, but I want to keep reading. I want to know what happens next. And so she read it over a weekend, and it's 350 pages. So I think if I'm keeping them compelled, that's a good thing. So
How did you come up with the title for it, A Matter of Trust? How did you come up with that, and how did you come up with the people and the storyline for this?
Well, this is not actually the first one that I wrote of the installments. The first one I wrote was A Matter of Faith. And it was after that, when new stories started coming, that I started to realize how they all have this idea of a virtue, and that's just how it all came about. And since I knew I wasn't going to continue the characters most of the time, I knew it had to connect somehow. So when I had A Matter of Faith, it just made sense. A matter of courage, a matter of trust. As far as the characters, the niece character, there's a lot of my own experiences that have developed with some things. I mean, most of it's more dramatic than they actually were in real life, but that's a story for you. And in particular, because of where it goes, one of the key parts of my life that's in it is the grandparents. And I don't want to say too much because I don't want to give it away. But a big part, just know that a big part of it comes from my own life. But that's how I work a lot of the time. That's how I work on song. That's where some of my best songs come from. I work on inspiration more than anything. And even in my journalism, it works that way. Like, I've gotten to the point where I hear a quote, someone says something in an interview, and I know exactly how the story's going to go now. So it's always been my strength to drive on inspiration.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's always been one of your strengths, is to be able to take a thought and turn it into, obviously, an article for a newspaper, but also to turn it into a book. This one reads very, very well. And it's like you said, it's 350 pages, and you wrote it longhand. Now, the book's, of course, not in scribble, but that's how you originally wrote it, was on a sheet of paper. And how did you do that? Because you couldn't have sat down and done 350 pages at one time. So over what time frame are we talking about?
Oh, we're talking a couple of years, because I would the frustrating part that always comes with these books is what starts the story is a scene that is either it is what would be the climactic scene. So it takes a while to figure out, okay, how do I get to this scene? And then where do we go after that scene? So that takes a while. The reason I always did it in longhand, though, was I could literally take it anywhere. So if I suddenly figured something out, I could pull it out, write a note, what have you. Plus, it's just, I'm old school in so many ways. I prefer to have a physical book in my hand. I prefer to write lists. I use a physical planner. Everybody, when I do meetings here at work, they're like, if it's not on my Outlook calendar, it doesn't exist. Well, it doesn't exist for me unless it's in my physical planner and stuff. So, and I take that with me everywhere. So, it's just part of the way I've always been, I guess.
Well, and it's always worked well for you. Always like the idea how you've taken a topic, something that's a topic, and I've been around you before where you scribble something down on there that means something to you later, and then I know when you get isolated and the opportunity to do something with it, why then you start writing and adding to it, and that's why you're so successful with the register and all of the writings that you've done. And I'm very, very proud of you, Katie, that you're able to do this. Now, we're going to cut away, take a break, and we'll be right back. You're listening to Stories That Matter with Katie Peterson. Welcome back to Stories That Matter. I'm your host, Doug Thompson, with my special guest, Katie Peterson. And Katie's in Nashville as we shoot this program right now, and she's pretty busy. And Katie, I love the book, A Matter of Trust. Now, if people want to buy that book, how do they go about getting it?
Well, it is an Amazon exclusive because I was able to publish it through their program, Kindle Direct Publishing, after several passes of my own editing. And I also got some help editing with some former professors of mine and stuff. So, but it is exclusive on Amazon. You can get it on paperback or hardback. You can also read it on Kindle. And for those Kindle Unlimited users, they can actually read it for free.
Awesome. Awesome. How's that work for you?
There's like some kind of program to where I get paid for every page that's read with that.
Oh, awesome. Very good. Very good. Katie, I've enjoyed visiting with you so much, and it's nice to see you again. God bless you, and continue with all you're doing, and be careful on that music row. I know you go out and you get a chance to sing here and there, and rightfully so, because you're excellent at it. So you take care. Good talking to you, Katie.
Well, thank you for having me. It was good to see you too.
All right. Thank you.